you now officially?
To analyze it, I will sign up and try it out. Look, social media as a business is a wonderful business. It's got high gross margins because the content is contributed by the users. What a great business idea. And it can be very profitable if you can scale it up. So here's the bogey. Twitter has about 37 million users in the US. So if you can get an asset that can generate, maybe 10 million users, you're on your way to a reasonably profitable business.
But I think there's a larger question about this particular app and the attention that it's going to be getting. And that is, does it change the landscape for social media writ large? We've had conversations about Section 230. We've had conversations about the responsibilities or lack of responsibilities that social media is going to have. Does this change how regulators look at this? Does this change how corporate leaders of these social media companies think about either what they're going to publish, what they're not? Does this actually make things more freer? I mean, you're going to see you're going to see Facebook open up even more? Are they going to close down? How do you see this?
I don't think it'll be impactful, but we'll wait and see what the numbers are like for Truth Social. There's no question that social media, Facebook and Twitter too, and the other big tech, particularly those two, right in the middle of a lot of regulatory pressures, and they have been for a while. They cut across a lot of social issues and free speech issues as well. So the moderation risks, responsibilities, challenges involved in running these platforms are extremely complex. And my guess is that the operating risks, the operating costs too, are going to be rising over time as the public is going to insist and regulators will insist that these companies do more to regulate speech.
So far, advertisers have not walked away from these platforms. The question is, do they run or walk away or don't touch this Trump social media platform? And by the way, we should mention this stock now, Digital World Acquisitions, at $97. Does that make sense to you?
I won't talk about the valuation. I'll just say what our advertisers are going to do is focus on where they can get the most reach, frequency, and where they have the best tools to track campaigns, target users, and know whether their ad campaigns were actually successful or not. So you've got two massive platforms out there already, Google and Facebook, that give you all the reach and frequency you need. The challenge for Snap, the challenge for Twitter, and the challenge for Truth Social is, what can you offer advertisers that the big platforms aren't offering? So it's hard to come up with something. Snapchat can come at it because they've got a real interesting youth demographic. Twitter's always had problems breaking through. It always has. It's always been in that kind of experimental ad budget. And then you've got TikTok now, which is emerging with massive amount of reach and frequency too. So the more you bring out new social media networks, the harder it is for advertisers to really find a great value proposition there. That's going to be a challenge for whoever comes up with the next social media platform.
The reason I'm asking this is, whether it's Parler or this service or others, advertisers have not wanted necessarily their ads next to certain types of speech. And that has always been an ongoing issue, and whether you think that dynamic is in play here.
It depends on what speech is on the platform. No, you're right, Andrew. Look, advertisers have always been concerned about that. The larger the platform, the better the tools are to make sure that advertisers' content doesn't show up against objectionable content. So that's why the operating risk of emerging with a new social media platform and the operating costs of emerging with a new social media platform is greater now than it was 5 or 10 years ago. The bar is higher in terms of what you allow on your platform and how you can guarantee to advertisers where exactly their content's going to be placed.
Mark, I asked you about valuation. You said I don't want to talk about valuation, but how can we not? This is a company now that's valued at $3 billion. I don't know if you think that that's a great sort of venture capital-like bet, given the valuations of the other social media companies in the world, or you say this is you either believe this is going to get off the ground and is going to have some kind of valuation, or you think it's going nowhere fast, in which case $3 billion is too much. And you got to have a view on which, no?
Oh yeah, you can have a review if you know what the numbers are. So you tell me 3 billion, and I want to say, well, we're doing 300 million in sales, and what's the growth on that? So if you get you could be 10 times, 20 times. If you're 20 times sales, you better have a lot of growth. The advantage of a new emerging social media platform is the business model is proven. That's one of the reasons why over time, over the last 10 years, Snapchat did reasonably well as an IPO. At least there was a lot of interest in it, and Twitter too, and Pinterest, because the business model was proven by Facebook that you could generate high margins with a social media asset. Now the question is, how big is their revenue base that you have, and what's it growing at? So just because it has a 3 billion valuation doesn't mean it's yes or no investment. It depends what that implied multiple is. And I just, as a quick swag, I'd want to know. I would guess that this thing better have something like a couple hundred million in sales. I don't know whether they have that or not. That's why it's hard to comment on the valuation.
I don't think they have it yet, Mark. But of course, the question is whether you want to bet that they will. Mark Mahaney, appreciate it. Great to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.